Welcome to the 80s versus 90s podcast, where we react and review everything from the 80s and 90s.
Hey everyone, this is Jesse and Jason, and you're listening to the 80s versus 90s podcast. Today we have some live TV shows to watch. Jason, what was your show?
My show is called Silver Spoons.
Okay. It's a cooking show or?
It's not a cooking show.
All right.
I can tell a little bit about it. This is a show I would have watched as like a middle school aged kid, and it revolves around Ricky Schroeder, who back in the 80s was the heartthrob. So this kid, he was on every like teen girl magazine cover. He was it. He was the heartthrob. He was the boy actor that all of us boys hated.
Okay, gotcha. You didn't want to be him. You just hated him.
Because all the girls loved him. That's all they talked about was Ricky Schroeder. So
that's fair. Did he have a flock of seagulls haircut?
No, he did not.
Well, he didn't have everything going for him.
Everything.
And then my show is Kenan and Kel from the 90s. If people watch SNL, they might recognize Kenan from that. This was kind of like a precursor to him being on SNL, but he was on a show before that called All That with Kenan, kind of a spinoff. Excited to introduce you to that. But yeah, so we're going to watch Silver Spoons first. Is there a specific episode that we're watching that you've chosen?
I have chosen in season 1, episode 2.
Okay.
And the reason I skipped to that is another famous actor, Jason Bateman, makes his first appearance in episode 2.
Yes. Very cool. I love Jason Bateman. All right, well, we'll get to watching Silver Spoons here. We'll be right back. Hey, so we just got done watching episode of Silver Spoons. Jason, do you mind walking us through the synopsis of the episode?
Silver Spoons, basically what it is Ricky lives with his dad. A little bit of backstory is he just moved in. I believe his mom had passed away, and now his dad has custody, but he had never lived with his dad before. His dad is very wealthy family. I think he's like Edward something III. And they live in a mansion that is massive on 365 acres or something.
Had arcade games in their living room.
Yeah, arcade games, a train going through their house, a door. This was back in the 80s that you hit a button and the door opened. So they're functional. Super rich. And so basically what this episode was about is Ricky had a friend come over who was played by Jason Bateman.
Who I didn't realize was Jason Bateman until afterwards. I was like, who is Jason Bateman?
Right. And he convinced Ricky, so Ricky would do stuff and his dad wouldn't punish him because his dad didn't want to make Ricky mad and didn't think he didn't love him. So Jason convinced him that his dad didn't punish him because he didn't love him. So then Ricky would act out more and do more things. And then he got convinced through all that his dad really didn't love him. And then kind of that's what the episode revolved around until his dad figured it out. And then they kind of mutually decided at the end that they worked it out basically. And he still got punished at the end.
Which he had to stay in his massive room.
Yeah, his punishment was you cannot leave your room for 2 days besides eating and stuff like that. And his room was like a kid's dream. So
yeah. The funny thing for me is a lot of these 80s shows, like the Growing Pains, the things like that, they all have like these awkward, serious moments.
Yes.
Where it's like funny the whole time, and then the switch flips, and it's intimate.
Tears.
Yeah, the kid had tears.
Yes.
So I wish he was a pretty good actor.
Yeah.
I'd never seen an episode, never heard of it. So watching this for the first time, I love a lot of the jokes. It does feel familiar, kind of like not hazy, but kind of like the soft edge on the film, their hair, everything. It kind of felt familiar and a little nostalgic for me watching those shows later on. But the one thing that was killing me, and I think it's just, when writers begin writing TV shows, like they get into a rhythm and they kind of develop characters, 60% of the jokes were amazing. They were actually really well crafted, well delivered, well written. And then the other 40%, I was just like, did you just need to fill 20 minutes worth of time?
Yeah.
Because, some of them were just home runs and then others were strikeouts. So, I don't know. What did you feel watching this again?
No, I agree with that. I haven't seen an episode in a long time, So I really liked it again because I watched that all the time. I believe I looked it up. It was on for 4 or 5 seasons from 82 to 86 or 87, I believe.
Yeah.
And so I was probably the same age as him at that time, which that's what made me love that show so much because obviously you have video games in your living room.
You put yourself in his shoes.
Most of the show going forward for their 4 seasons takes place in that living room. So it's like that's what you see and that's what it is. So no, I liked it. I agree. I think it's cool that if you look at the filmographies of Ricky Schroeder, which is the actor, he's done a lot. And then, of course, Jason Bateman, which we all know has done a ton. And I think it's season 2, Alfonso Ribeiro, who, of course, from, everything, The Fresh Prince and everything. He's in it, too.
America's Funniest Home Videos.
He becomes a character that stays on for many seasons. And then the personal secretary to the dad, Aaron Gray, was in Buck Rogers and all kinds of stuff later on, too. So the talent was great. So I loved it. I loved watching it.
Also, was she's the personal secretary, but it seemed like they were kind of intertwined.
He did pick her a rose in this episode, and it was just 2. So, yes, there definitely was a flirtation that developed a little bit more as the seasons went on, yes.
Okay. Did they ever eventually, become an item, or is it...
If I'm remembering correctly, and this is actually a total guess, but I do recall a wedding at the end.
Okay. We'll have to go check on it.
Yes.
But it makes sense. I feel like just watching it and being like, wait, you're the secretary?
Right.
Her code name, they did a walkie-talkie thing. Her code name was Foxy Lady.
Yes.
It's like, okay, this is not just a secretary relationship. Anyway.
And one thing that I just wanted to say is I noticed with a couple of the characters is, and I think this happened a lot in those shows where it was their character name was their actual real name. So Ricky was Ricky, and then the lawyer Leonard Lightfoot, he was Leonard in the show.
Gotcha.
And I remember that happening a lot in those 80 shows, that was the person's first name.
It's probably because they kept messing up, and they're just
just call me Leonard.
Yeah. We're just going to write your first name.
Right.
No, that's great. Yeah, I liked it a lot. Definitely my favorite show you've showed me so far from this time period.
Yeah, it's a good show.
So next up, we've got Kenan and Kel, classic 90s, kind of mid to late 90s is when Kenan and Kel rose to prominence on Nickelodeon. I know everything I show you is Nickelodeon. It's my childhood.
Yeah.
So I need a shirt that says I was raised by Nickelodeon.
That would be a great shirt.
If you'd buy it, let me know, and I'll send you one. And you can send me a check.
Right.
Anyway, so Kenan and Kel were on a show called All That, and that was kind of like a kid version of SNL. And from that kid version of SNL, there are a couple characters that developed. Kenan and Kel did with Good Burger was one of them. Kel was the cashier. Mm-hmm. And so from those two guys, they made the movie Good Burger. But a little bit before then, they started their own TV show called Kenan and Kel. You'll see a little bit in the show. But yeah, so Kenan and Kel, here it is.
All right, we just got done watching Kenan and Kel.
Yep.
Jesse, I'll let you give a description of what we just watched.
Okay, so we watched Kenan and Kel. It starts out with Kel having broken ribs or bruised ribs. So he needs to get that fixed. He's at the doctor's office. And basically the episode revolves around a bet. So they go into a place where Kenan works, kind of like a convenience store. And if you haven't seen Kenan and Kel before, something you need to know is Kel loves orange soda. It's kind of like his whole shtick is, I love orange soda. I do. So they make this bet where Kel can't drink orange soda for a week. And if he does, he has to stand on the counter of the convenience store in a lady's nightgown and sing the national anthem. And then if he completes the challenge, then Kenan has to do it. So the episode revolves around that. There's a hypnotist involved, all this random stuff. But at the end, they just both have to sing in a 90 because of some technicality. So
yes,
what did you think of the episode?
I mean, I thought it was funny. I had never seen Kenan and Kel before. Didn't know this was a show. I knew of, and I believe I saw the movie Good Burger once. So I guess I knew who the characters were, and of course Kenan from Saturday Night Live later on. what I liked about it is it felt like a variety show because they came out at the beginning kind of like they were hosting a Tonight Show type thing.
Yeah.
And then kind of turned it into the little SNL in living color skit format. And what I really liked about that was they kept the same theme going throughout the whole thing. So they went with the hypnotism thing because of the orange soda. There's a whole lot more we probably should talk about, but they went with the same theme through each scene, even though each scene was funny in itself. So it felt like I was watching episodes of a live Saturday Night Live type show that all connected together.
Yeah.
Where, Saturday Night Live was very random and Living Color was very random. Definitely another thing is really the audience it was meant for was the younger audience, and they were very clean in that. There was nothing absurd. One thing that slipped, I think maybe both our minds in Silver Spoons, there was a little scene where they talked about watching a 70-year-old lady in the shower.
Yeah, that was
so
rough.
that was like, that's weird. That this was a kid meant for kids. And they talked about in the 90s it was clean,
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was really funny. I liked that it felt like live sketch show as opposed to a sitcom.
Yeah.
With a studio audience that you actually got to see. And the episode was really funny. I think knowing more about, like, there was a few things that you had to tell me was his signature move that he did or signature sayings that they say. I think not knowing those, I don't know if I would have thought those were funny unless you said, oh yeah, that's a signature move. And if I saw it again later, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you watching it? I mean, is this something that you're still watching once in a while, or?
Every now and then I'll watch an episode of Kenan and Kel. So this is from season 2, is episode 4, if anyone's cares to go and watch it. Yeah, I'll watch Kenan and Kel occasionally. The thing about this episode in particular that I thought was interesting is that it kind of felt like an autopilot episode. The episodes that I've watched recently all kind of have a story arc to them where it's like a little more sitcom-y.
Okay.
They leaned really heavily on the orange soda thing. It was the main theme of the whole show was the orange soda.
Right.
And usually that's just a small piece of like what goes on. Like Kel might have orange soda and like someone asks him if he loves it. And he's like, I do. But this was like the whole episode of that. So I feel like they kind of have their formula and they kind of just like, what's our formula for making a joke here? Okay, let's write it. And so I didn't really feel like this was a great episode of Kenan and Kel, but it did have a lot of the elements that it normally has in it. So
yeah, and there was a take from it at the end. I mean, because of the bet they had, the Kenan who won the bet, what seemed like he won the bet, he won it by cheating. And then so he didn't win either, so they both lost.
Yeah.
So there was a takeaway from it that, cheaters aren't going to win. So at least there was that there. But I did think it was really funny, and yeah. For sure.
So Kenan is kind of the mischief maker of the two of them. He's always getting into like schemes and stuff and showing him as he's cheating and not able to win through it. That's kind of a theme that goes in a lot of the shows. Like at the very beginning when they come out, they introduce the episode and usually it ends with Kenan walking off stage before Kel being like, come on, let's go do this thing. And Kel's like, oh, here it goes. Like,
right.
And so that's kind of how
That's
every
funny.
episode kind of begins. But
All right.
yeah. So what do you think? Would you watch another episode based on?
Would I watch another episode? Yes, I would. I think it's like the last one we talked about with the game show is I would need to be won over by the next episode to want to keep going. I did think it was funny, but I need to see another episode. And if it was similar to that, I don't know if it'd be the first thing I'd go to.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I did like it. I was laughing, but I guess I just don't know enough. I haven't seen enough of them and knew their characters enough to really appreciate it.
Totally. Based solely on that episode, I actually don't think I would watch another episode of Kenan and Kel. I know in my heart because I've seen great episodes and I've watched them recently, so I know that there's stuff out there. So I will continue to watch Kenan and Kel. But based on just that episode, I was like you said, if you didn't know that those were kind of the catchphrases for them, the I love orange soda thing, it would just kind of be like, was that supposed to be funny? Why is everyone laughing?
Right.
There's a lot of inside jokes with it. But yeah, so for Silver Spoons.
For Silver Spoons. So would you watch another episode of that?
Absolutely. I especially being the second episode and them not having hit their stride yet.
Yes, of course.
I feel like it was a solid episode.
And for me on that too, I would as well. Back when I watched it back then, I didn't really know Jason Bateman as an actor. And now that I love the stuff he's in, I would love to see more of him in that.
Yeah.
Because his character, I like his character in that. And I want to see how that progresses since he's in quite a few episodes.
He was a solid kid actor too.
Yeah, he was. It was really good. I would definitely watch more and will probably make my 16-year-old son watch them with me.
Yeah.
So if we were to pick a winner in this battle.
So in 80s versus 90s in this episode, I'm going to have to go with 80s.
Yeah, I probably agree, and that's just based on even what you said, where the Kenan and Kel wasn't your favorite episode.
Yeah, and it kills me because Kenan and Kel is one of my favorite TV shows of like the 90s.
Yeah,
I spent so many nights watching it, but just based on this episode versus the episode I watched on Silver Spoons, Silver Spoons had an interesting thing. Their jokes were more crafted. They didn't rely on something that had happened over and over to get a laugh. So as much as it pains me, I think the 80s wins this one. If you disagree, comment below. They were both solid TV shows, though.
Yeah, for sure.
I enjoyed watching Silver Spoons. Never heard of it before, but thanks for introducing me to it.
You're welcome, and thanks for introducing me to Kenan and Kel. Actually did help me having seen Good Burger. Now I understand, because Good Burger I'd probably understand it a little more.
Yeah.
Because I saw Good Burger once and thought, there were some funny parts, but I don't get the characters. Now there's a backstory to it.
Totally.
So.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening.
Yep.
We'll see you next time.